How's it going, y'all? This is Vic coming at y'all once again. Just got through seeing Venom in theaters at the Movie Tavern, and gotta say it was pretty awesome. Uh, it was pretty freaking wicked. Um, it's Venom back there, if you didn't already know, rocking the Venom shirt. Um, I have to say, all in all, it wasn't a bad movie. By any stretch of the imagination, it wasn't a bad movie. Um, I think what's a little weird is that Sony still having the rights to stuff like this and loaning out uh, things to Marvel and the such. It's real difficult for them to do stuff like this and keep with the canon. And I think that's one of the problems that they have with a lot of what they're trying to do with some of the things like X-Men and whatnot. Um, they're not able to tell the exact story that they want to tell, and a story like Venom, especially the first one, will undoubtedly uh, should have dealt with uh, Peter Parker, should have dealt with Spider-Man, because technically Spider-Man is the first person to get the symbiote um, that J. Jonah Jameson' son brings from outer space um, to Earth. And so, with that, you have kind of a reverse telling of um, Venom's origin story, and so it's a little weird. Uh, so you've kind of got like Eddie, who, because Tom Hardy plays him as a much more likable character. If anybody's seen the Spider-Man animated series or read any earlier comics, you know that Eddie Brock is kind of a douche. And they paint him out as a uh, more of a likable sort. He's got a girlfriend. He's an investigative reporter, and he uses his talents as a reporter to kind of take down like these big corporations and the such. And that's really cool. Kind of painting him in that light, giving him a little more likability. But I think it takes away from who the character actually is and who he actually winds up becoming. Because there's that redemption factor that's not there. What's up, buddy?
Can I go to the gas station and get some cigarettes?
If you buy me a pack of cigarettes and say hi to the buddies.
Hey, buddies.
Tell them what you thought of the movie.
I thought the movie was really good. It was well balanced between comedy and seriousness. And monologuing between the two characters was well written.
Monster and Smokies.
A monster and smoke.
Yeah. And if you would you bring my lighter inside real quick before you leave?
The cowboy.
Anyone, I don't care. Just a lighter. Or a cigarette. Anyways, sorry guys. So as I was saying, you kind of have that loss of character. It's kind of like seeing the Star Wars movies backwards a little bit in the sense that you have sympathy for Vader later on because you find out what's actually going on in Vader's life early on, and so he's more sympathetic at the end. So like I said, but I'm not opposed to painting him in this light. And like I said, they really didn't have much of a choice but to paint him in that kind of a light, just because they didn't have Spider-Man there, and they weren't going to because of MCU using Infinity War, and it's really difficult to bring Spider-Man back from something like that. So no matter what, this movie would have to be a prequel of sorts, no matter how you toss it. And I mean, even when Spidey does interject with Venom eventually, it still kind of technically would have to be a prequel, but I can't really guarantee that. Like I said, Sony is they're very willing to ad lib with their franchises, and that's not always a good thing sometimes. And so, with that, ow, almost burned my foot there. With that, you have a relatively well done movie. Um, I can understand why some of the critics are coming after it a little bit. It wasn't an unflawed movie, and I don't think that Venom was by any means a perfect movie. But I think it was a lot of fun. You have to go in there with the idea knowing that they did not have the ability to put Spider-Man in this movie. So you have to take, if you're a comic book fan and you're a stickler for origin stories that are true to form, you have to take uh, Peter Parker's interaction with the symbiote out of your mind. The Venom origin story, of course, starts with Spider-Man, but not in this cinematic universe. And you just kind of have to make your peace with it. Otherwise, you may never get over it. It might piss you off, and you might get mad at the very end. It just kind of depends. So, like I said, the pacing of the movie was really good. I thought, for the most part, I didn't really have any issues with it. Eddie being the investigative journalist and whatnot, and instead of him being an arrogant asshole who kind of like lies to enrich his stories, he's more like an investigative journalist who doesn't pull punches, and so because of that, he doesn't pull punches with the wrong guy, and eventually costs himself his job at his reporting business. By the way, he's in San Francisco now, not New York. So this is post being run out of New York for what would technically be his scuff with Parker. Of course, referring to Spider-Man. But after that, him getting fired, it does simultaneously cause his girlfriend to get fired, which then she leaves him, and then you start seeing Eddie kind of go down like this, I wouldn't say completely darker path, but he's drinking, he's at a bar, he's doing more what you would say down on his luck kind of guy stuff, and he still winds up still being relatively nice. So, like I said, I never really got like asshole Eddie out of this movie, which, like I said, Tom Hardy's a really likable guy. It's kind of hard to hate him. So even if they were to go for that, I'm not sure if I could hate Tom Hardy. But it's during that time that he's down his luck, he runs across the same company again that cost him his job because he wouldn't pull punches in his reporting. Contacted by a scientist, and because he was contacted by that scientist, she knows that things are going on. What he was reporting was the truth, which what cost him his job, that he was reporting the truth and exposing them for killing test subjects and the such. He winds up going back because the scientist gets him in and basically wants the deaths to stop because it's unethical. And that's really cool that he's kind of getting that chance to maybe get one up over on him. And he notices that in the building that he's in, when she lets him down in the area where the symbiotes are being held, that a homeless woman that he kind of helped out in the middle of the movie is one of the test subjects, which I'm guessing they're probably offering money if you survive, because they're basically doing tests to see if humans can achieve symbiosis with the symbiotes, which is where the symbiote that latches on you and needs to live with you will harmonize with you and not kill you. So, because symbiotes require perfect symbiosis, otherwise they just eat you from the inside and you die. And so, with that, you have Eddie trying to save her. He gets her out, but then he doesn't realize she's got a symbiote attached to her, which leaves her, jumps to Eddie, and then Eddie starts, just he's getting like hot, and he's got this insatiable hunger, and it's just there's a lot going on with Eddie once the symbiote gets inside of him. He starts hearing the secondary voice of Venom talking to him and kind of giving him advice and this, that, and the other. The symbiote's kind of got like a secondary spidey sense and whatnot, telling him, what to do and what not to do to kind of keep him out of trouble. And that's where the movie, like I said, really takes off. Because you get Venom and the symbiote reacting off each other really well. The dialogue between the two of them is extremely funny. And I never thought that it was like overly funny. Like Thor Ragnarok was a little much. But I felt like it never took itself seriously at all. And so with that, you've got Eddie basically just trying to, coexist with this being, but at the same time he's kind of sort of trying to find a way to get the symbiote off of him, because he feels like it might be trying to eat him from the inside. And so his girlfriend, who's now with another dude, shock and all there, for a little bit of conflict going on. He's a doctor, some type of famous surgeon, and basically with that, he kind of like tests him and sees what's going on, and he tries to put him in for basically a gigantic CAT scan of his body, but it uses high frequency sound, and if you know Venom or any of the other symbiotes, they can't stand high pitched noises. It's very deadly to them. Venom also doesn't like fire. And so with that, he leaves. They find out, of course, he's got a parasite and whatnot. And eventually, later on in the story, they wind up knocking the symbiote off of Eddie because the doctor says that the symbiote is trying to eat him. Now, for Eddie, he's not really trying to eat him. They're just achieving symbiosis together, and the doctor doesn't really understand it. And all the other ones have been killed and eaten pretty much from the inside out, whereas, as you know, Eddie is basically a perfect host for the symbiote known as Venom. They really react well off of each other and have a really great pairing. And so with that, like I said, their dialogue off of each other is great. But then the big bad in this movie is the guy that Eddie was trying to expose in the beginning of the movie, and he's there throughout the middle running the experiments, killing homeless people and whatnot recklessly, which again causes that doctor to bring Eddie in, and then the symbiote attaches itself to Eddie. And there's this kind of like this story going on throughout the story of the symbiote that broke loose in the beginning of the movie, and it's kind of like the head honcho symbiote that went with Venom. He calls him like a team leader of sorts, and basically that symbiote wants to go back to the symbiote planet, bring back a shit ton of symbiotes, and lease them on Earth, and basically wipe out the planet, or have a few select people bond with symbiotes and stay that way. But that notwithstanding, he actually winds up getting, the bad guy winds up getting a symbiote attached to him for Venom to fight. And so that's really cool, to kind of see the two symbiotes fight each other and interact with one another. Eddie, like I said, whenever Eddie actually loses the symbiote because of the doctor, he knocks it off of him. And he gets it back because his girlfriend winds up getting possessed by the symbiote, and they wind up making out in a forest for the transfer of powers back. So you kind of have like a little, maybe they will, maybe they won't get back together kind of thing. All the while, Venom is wisecracking as hell. He's almost like a Deadpool kind of character, kind of, sort of. And then, of course, like I said, they have their fight. They're fighting on a space shuttle that's about to launch. Because, again, that symbiote is attached to the big bad corporate guy. He's pretty much, his mind is being taken over, and he wants to go get more of those symbiotes, so he starts trying to launch his own rocket and get himself into space and blah, blah, blah. And, Venom fights him, but he pretty much says that he has, like, no chance of winning because this is a very advanced symbiote and is way better trained than him. But the other symbiote recognizes that Eddie is a really good host and makes Venom a better fighter, too. And so, with that, Venom eventually does wind up triumphing over the other symbiote and killing the other guy. And you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Card and everything?
It's all in here.
Okay. Okay.
No problem.
And so,
Request to steal one from me.
with that, stop stealing my cigarettes.
Huh?
Stop stealing my cigarettes.
Steal one get. That's all I want. No pressure.
Start hanging out more, you a-hole.
I'll quit my job.
No, you just hang out more.
Pay me to stay at home.
Stop being a douche. And so, with that, Eddie actually is like falling from the sky after they blow up the spaceship that they're taking, the rocket that the other symbiote was going to take. And Venom actually says goodbye, Eddie, basically in the last, heroic show to save Eddie's life, because he's found that Earth is not such a bad place, and he likes it, and he likes Eddie's girl, and he likes Eddie, and so that's really cool. And then you kind of cut back, and it's later after that, and Eddie's talking to his ex-girlfriend in front of his girl in the doctor's new place or whatever, and they're kind of, having a little banter back and forth, and she's sorry that Eddie lost Venom because she felt like they were getting close and whatnot. And then all of a sudden you hear Venom start talking back, so you realize Eddie didn't lose Venom, but she doesn't know that. And so I'm guessing eventually she'll find out. And so Eddie starts telling Venom, hey, we can't be going around just hurting random people. I know you get hungry and stuff like that, and you can't be eating people and stuff like that. You have to go for the bad guys and the bad guys only. And Venom is like, well, how do you tell and how do you know? And Eddie just kind of goes over dialogue, and then he goes into that Asian shop he was going into in the trailers for like the second time, I believe, second or third time. And there's this guy who's been robbing this chick over and over again. Eddie wasn't able to do anything about it the first time, but this time he is able to with the Venom symbiote. And Venom goes, like, that guy? And he's like, yeah, that guy. And so Eddie goes Venom, and basically that's where you get the whole, we'll eat your arms and your legs and your face, and you'll be this armless, legless, faceless thing rolling down the street like a turd in the wind. And so that was pretty funny too. And then he just winds up killing him anyways, because he was going to give him a chance to just, stop being a douche, but he was like, nah, I'll just fucking bite his head off and eat him. And so he does. And then Eddie, does the whole, oh, sorry, Mrs. Chin, I got a parasite, and kind of walks out, whatever. I'm imagining at some point Eddie might wind up going to jail for all this murder he's doing, even if he is saving people, which will probably land him into a fight with Spidey at some point, because he's, instead of doing it Spider-Man's way, he's actually killing people. So, but anyway, so, credits roll on that, and they start, rolling the credits, and you get Eminem doing the Venom theme song, which I thought was kind of a unique choice for somebody to be doing something like that. Eminem doing a superhero theme song is not the first, probably not my first choice. But anyways, the song was decent and cool. Then you get the post-credits scene, and here's where a ton of spoilers happen. So if you don't want to know, turn off now, because I'm giving you the post-credits scene. Eddie talks to his girl and basically says that he's landed the interview of a lifetime. She'll have to wait and see. That was right before the credits. And then he, you see him on a bike and he's telling Venom, hey, I need you to be quiet for this. This has to be all me. I need to do my job. And Venom's like, fine, just don't take long. And so you see him going to this, hey, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Just talking about the Venom movie. If you have any questions, let me know. Either way, oh, cool. Nepal, nice. Couldn't fathom, I guess, what time it is there. But anyways, I'm going over the post-credit scene right now in Venom, so just FYI, it's spoilers at this point. My whole review is spoilers, more or less. But so Venom, well, Eddie is going to this jail, saying he's got the interview of a lifetime, and the guard is kind of talking to him along the way, saying to Eddie, you know, watch out with this guy, or you could be next. Basically, like, kind of foreshadowing. I'm from Texas, bro. Basically telling Eddie, you know, watch out, you could be next, and foreshadowing that this guy is a serial killer, which is kind of like a hint towards where they're going with this, if you know anything about, you know, Venom and who his greatest arch nemesis is. Then they get to the cell, and they open the door, and you see this red-headed dude played by Woody Harrelson, and it's none other than the serial killer Cletus Cassidy. I'm from Texas, dude. Texas. Cletus Cassidy, who is known for his role as the villain Carnage. And so you have, you know, Cletus Cassidy, no symbiote on him yet, talking to Eddie, you know, saying, hey, I could go serial killer anytime I needed to, but I figured you want to know, you know, the details of everything, and basically just trying to seem more refined than what he really is. And he says, I will get out of here at some point, and there will be carnage, which again precludes to him eventually becoming and getting a symbiote and becoming Carnage, which is a very murderous version of living. Cletus Cassidy's already insane and a serial killer. When Carnage gets on him, it's a whole nother fucking being, and he goes beyond symbiosis, like Venom, where he says, we are Venom. Carnage says, I am Carnage, and they become a singular being, and that's how attached Cletus Cassidy is to Carnage. And so with that, you have your next Venom movie pretty much set up. Now Carnage is a pretty big bad in the Marvel world, and so I don't think Eddie's going to be able to do that one alone. From what I've heard, the next Spider-Man movie is going to involve Parker's interaction with Venom a little bit, and him kind of having the black suit, but that's just rumors so far. But that would be cool to see. Like I said, it at least needs to happen sooner rather than later, because Venom takes place in the Spider-Verse, so you have to start getting Venom attached to Spider-Man. Otherwise, he exists in a totally separate universe like the X-Men do, and that's only because Sony is so protective over their copyrights, and honestly, they just need to take their copyrights and partner everything with Marvel Disney. Take a cut, like a 50% cut from whatever they're doing with those characters, and let them all merge together. Because doing this separately, at some point you realize Sony's going to have to cut loose these copyrights, because they're not going to do as well as Marvel could. It's going to cost them more than it's worth at some point. It only takes one bad executive decision. And then here they come, and then you're pretty much, your movies were worth nothing, and they had to be rebooted, and there go your DVD sales. And so, but anyways, like I said, Venom movie, I'd say I'd probably give it about, I'd say 7.5 out of 10, close 8 maybe. Like I said, just don't go in there as a comic book fan with a lot of knowledge, because you know how the Venom origin story should go. Just throw that out of your head, because they couldn't do it, because they couldn't use Spider-Man right away. So with that, go in there trying to have a good time. Like I said, get ready for some action, get ready to laugh. Like I said, there's a little bit of drama, so you got to kind of build. You get built up to Venom, so you don't get him right away, but you'll get there. Like I said, they have to build up the story for it. And yeah, like I said, just enjoy it. It was a really good film. Um, I hope you guys get a chance to see it, watch it. It's worth the look. It's probably gonna be worth the DVD buy at least. Anyways, uh, this has been a iHeart Live. Like I said, sorry, I don't, I know some of you guys couldn't watch or whatever, but I try to do these as much as I can when I can. The next one might be the UFC fights going on Saturday, and maybe even the Texas OU live post game show. But anyways, you have a good night. Stay classy, and I will see you in the next one.